So hello and welcome. I'm Jen Stein. This is Mainline MUFON. This is our June program with Chris O'Brien. And because of COVID-19, we are pre-recording these and posting them to YouTube and to MUFON television. So I hope you're tuning in there. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Chris, which I'm really delighted to have come. I'm sorry you couldn't come in person, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is an accomplished investigative writer, documentary filmmaker, and UFO researcher. From 1992 to 2002, Chris investigated hundreds of unexplained events, such as cattle mutilations, crypto creatures, UFOs, all reported in South Central Colorado to North Central New Mexico. His investigations were chronicled in his Mysterious Valley book trilogy. So there's 3 books on this area. And it's the largest database of these unusual occurrences in this single section or region of the United States. His latest book is called Stalking the Herd, and it's a comprehensive look at the often misunderstood cattle mutilation mystery. Chris is currently working with engineers and scientists creating and marketing a totally new designed UFO surveillance and monitoring equipment, which is called the UFO Data Acquisition Project. And Chris is going to be sharing some about that in this presentation. Chris is very well known. You've seen him on television. He's appeared on over 70 TV shows, things like Ancient Aliens, Coast to Coast, UFO Hunters, The Inside Edition, Extra, and he co-produced a documentary film called It Could Happen Tomorrow, which won a couple of EB awards at the International UFO Congress, Best Picture and the People's Choice Award. And I was pleased to be working on that project with Chris. So welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on our Zoom recorded presentation and being willing to jump through this hoop with us.
Yes, the brave new world.
Yeah, technically. So I'm going to put this over to play from start, slide view, and you tell me if you can see it.
It looks great.
Great. Okay, so the floor is yours. Just tell me when you want me to change the slide.
Okay. What I've done, and first of all, thank you very much, Jen, for inviting me and allowing me to share some of my work with MUFON members, and I look forward to answering any questions possibly in some future form. I've been involved in the observation and investigation and research into the UFO phenomenon for almost 30 years. And I happened to move in 1989 to one of the most active areas for UFO sightings in the United States. Just to give you an idea of how normal UFO sightings are in the valley, I would estimate that possibly 1 in 50 or more sightings are actually reported. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, I don't, it's not a big deal. I said, you see that silver orb up there? Yeah. So what? So I think it's become almost part of normalcy in the San Luis Valley, but we're going to go ahead and have a whirlwind tour of the valley just to give all these sightings a bit of context, and then talk about how 12, 13 years of work have gone into creating a surveillance setup that can document these sightings. So without further ado, let's begin. As Jen mentioned, I have written quite a number of books. The one that I'm most proud of is Stalking the Herd. It's the only objective look at the cattle mutilation phenomenon. It's been getting really good reviews on Amazon. I'm very proud of it, but that's another talk. So anyway, yeah, check me out online. These books are fun. Okay, say hello to my little friends. These are our multi-sensor data acquisition units, the square boxes, and armed with the state-of-the-art pan tilt zoom surveillance cameras. Now, normally surveillance cameras, you see them upside down because they're looking around on the ground. Our cameras, because we're observing the sky, are turned around. And so we have a complete view of the sky. And the camera in the middle is a smaller, less expensive version. And those boxes that you see are I don't want to go into all the technical details, but they're based on a Raspberry Pi, and they're written in an open source language called Python, so that geeks and nerds can go in and have some fun with them if they want to do their own modifications. But what's in those boxes is very interesting. We have a combination of scientific sensing equipment that would include a magnetometer to record changes in the Earth's magnetic field during an event, during a sighting event. We have accelerometers, which will look for any changes in the Earth's gravity, which is like a gravimeter. We also have a RF spectrum analyzer, which will take frequencies, dialable frequencies, and analyze the frequency that is being recorded during an event. This is really exciting stuff. No one's ever done this before. And
Can I ask a quick question, Chris?
Sure.
There's one in the middle that looks like it's on a tripod. Is that a smaller version of the two?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's a smaller camera that, instead of having 30 times optical zoom like the big ones, it only has 12. It's just a way to create systems at a lower price point. These systems, we're not attempting to make money on them. I'm going to go in and explain about the software that operates these whole systems, which is our engineer, Ron Olch, invented the software, and he spent 6 years writing, I think, 20,000 lines of code to create the software. But we want everybody to be able to, afford to get this equipment. And our low-end entry-level system is around $400, and our high-end full-blown systems are less than $5,000. So we're attempting to do this in a way that keeps the equipment costs down absolutely as far as we can go. And also it gives, obviously, people a better chance to afford the gear and to go ahead and set it up. Now, the whole system is operated over the internet, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, let's go to the next one. We're going to talk quickly about hotspots and the San Luis Valley. And I'm going to talk about some Native American traditions, which with the popularity of the new show, Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, there's a lot of talk about Native American sorcery and skinwalkers and stuff, and I think I need to at least address a little bit of that. Also, the San Luis Valley is quite a unique area, and as you'll hear, and some really interesting subcultural belief systems have emerged in the valley that are unique to the valley and you won't find elsewhere. That's because the area is so remote. The valley didn't get television, broadcast television, until the early 80s, just to give you an idea. It is one of the most remote areas in continental United States. Well, hotspots are really interesting, and within the hotspots, there are portal type areas. I'm going to address that quickly. Talk about the modern history of the valley, the flap years that go from 66 to, let's say, to 78. The various investigators that have come and checked out the valley, and then, share some of their theories. And then it's also the birth of the unusual livestock death phenomenon, or cattle mutilations, if you prefer. I'm going to just briefly mention that. That's I think it's a very reported phenomenon. I think it's underappreciated for its importance in studying the paranormal, and we'll get into all that briefly. Then we're going to talk about the potential government involvement. I say potential just to just to be as accurate as possible. There's no question in my mind that the government is involved in the valley and elsewhere. And we'll look quickly at some possible agendas. Then we'll get to the good stuff. We'll talk about the UFO phenomenon, the variety and intensity of activity in the valley, and the bewildering amount of different types of objects and what appear to be plasma effects in the atmosphere, orbs, if you will. And then we'll come back to UFODAP and kind of finish up with a bang with our historic UFO data acquisition project. So then hopefully at the end, everybody will still be awake. This is interesting. I've never done this before, Jen. This is going to be a
there's a
first for me.
First time for everything, right? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go to the next slide.
Okay. Well, what is a hotspot where the veil is thin, as I like to call it? Well, here's a list of them. The San Luis Valley, of course, we're going to talk about, but there's other places. Here's just a sampling. The Mogollon Rim area around Sedona, Arizona, the Black Hills of South Dakota, Mount Shasta, Montauk, the Uinta Basin, White Sands down in New Mexico, the Zone of Silence just down in Mexico. There's a ton of places around North America where you have locations that have certain things in common. And go to the next slide. And that is, they all contain indigenous ancient sacred sites. They all have unusual geophysical properties. They all feature waves of anomalous activity, and usually a variety of anomalous activity. There's always been, and probably always will be, a culture of unexplained regional events in the hotspot area. And you also almost always have the government involved and have some sort of government base or government activity that's in close proximity to the region or in the region itself. And oftentimes you have Native American reservations around the area as well. Now, with these 5 things, if you have these 5 things that you can attribute to an area, it's a hotspot area. And all you have to do is start digging in newspaper archives and going in and looking at the history of the place, and you'll uncover a treasure trove of cool data, information, and research. So to all you aspiring investigators out there that want to do it right, take note of these 5 elements, and you'll have yourself a good time if you live in a place that has these things. Okay, you can go. Okay, this is kind of a rough idea of the valley. I have a better slide coming up. You'll see the valley. It's kind of football shaped. It goes from the Taos all the way up to Salida there. You'll see that it's totally ringed by mountains. The mountains on the long straight mountains there, the Sangre de Cristos, and they are the longest continuous mountain range in North America. There are 7 of those peaks that are above 14,000 feet. And you'll notice the river going down, curving into the valley, and then going down to Taos and then past. That's the Rio Grande. And where the Rio Grande enters over on the western side of the valley is a very, very hot spot area around South Fork and Del Norte, Colorado. And you can go to the next one. This is just hit it one more time.
Oh, should I go back? Let's see.
Yeah, go back.
Looks like it's not letting me bring up.
Yeah, because if you hit your space bar.
Oh, let me try space bar. No, when I hit the space bar, that's what I get.
Okay, that's weird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it should have my my Aeromagnetic map. Anyway, this is a map that shows the valley. I'll just describe it. I don't know why it's not there. It's a map of aeromagnetic field strength for Colorado. And the San Luis Valley has some unusual geophysical properties. Yeah, you can go to the next one.
Okay, I'll go to the next one.
It has areas where the Earth's magnetic field is at maximum field strength. And it also has areas that are at minimum field strength. And the two of them are very close together in a number of locations around Blanca Peak, around the Great Sand Dunes. And it's interesting that you should have minimum and maximum right next to each other. And the seam in between, which is like a cliff face in a topo map, where the lines of field strength are so close together, that seam is where we have a majority of our UFO sightings. And also some portal type areas that I've been able to identify location specific spots that it's where trooping fairies come from, weird orbs. It's just amazing the type of stuff that we've seen come out of it.
Is this line kind of in the middle, Chris, or is it more towards the mountain?
It's on yeah, by the Great Sand Dunes and just a little bit north of that.
Oh, like this side?
No, the other side.
The other side, over here.
Yeah, right there. Right,
okay, right there.
Right in there. And that's also where the town of Crestone is, where I lived for 13 years.
Right.
Okay,
Lots
let's go
of UFO sightings there.
Yeah, let's
Paula
go.
Harris has talked about a lot of them, and there's a big international center there too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit. Here's just a nice scenic shot of the Central Sangres. They, like I said, they're the longest continuous mountain range in North America. They go from all the way down around just north of Albuquerque, all the way up to Leadville. And it's all part of the Rio Grande Rift Valley, which is the second largest rift valley in the world, the largest being the Great Rift Valley in Africa. That Rift Valley goes from offshore in the Caribbean of El Paso all the way up to Leadville. And that's also one reason why we have a lot of interesting natural aerial effects, piezoelectric discharges from the quartz in the mountains and other things, which we'll get into a little bit later. Next. I think there's just some scenic slides here to give you an idea. There's the San Luis Valley on one side, and the Wet Mountain Valley, or as my mentor and friend David Perkins, who lives there, says, the somewhat mysterious valley. So, anyway, it's there's a lot of stuff that goes on both sides of the mountains, believe me. But I was primarily concerned with the San Luis Valley.
In red over here, yeah.
Yeah, you can go. Okay, yeah. Here's some of the 14ers. One of the most unusual geophysical properties in the valley is the Great Sand Dunes. The Great Sand Dunes are the largest pile of pure quartz on the planet, and it also is the world's highest desert. It goes all the way up from 7,500 to 7,800 rather, up to 9,000 feet. The dunes in the middle are 700 feet high. When they drilled down in the middle of the dune field back in the 60s, they wanted to see what they found at the bottom of the dunes. And lo and behold, they found an ancient forest had been covered up by the sand. So when you have organic material, obviously you can date it with carbon-14 dating. And they figured that it would be, thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, and that they really couldn't get an accurate date. But much to their surprise, the trees were only 11,000 years old. So a 700-foot high pile of sand, 49 square miles of sand, was deposited in 11,000 years. If you know anything about geology, you're going to scratch your head and go, what? It's almost impossible.
A great cataclysm of some sort.
Yeah, possibly. It's right around the time of
the Younger Dryas, the older.
Yeah, exactly. The Younger Dryas. And and the Great Flood. Anyway, the sand dunes are an incredibly amazing, spooky, mysterious place, and it's one of the few places in the valley that I will not go at night. And I'm not afraid of anything, but I just stay out of there at night. Too many things have happened to too many people. Okay, you can go. Here's the road going from Alamos in the center of the valley to Walsenburg, which is out to the east on the Front Range. That's the largest pile of mountains. The Navajo consider it to be the sacred mountain of the east. Blanca Peak, the place where all thought originates. Cisnajini is the name they give it in Dene. And you can see right there, there's three 14,000 foot mountains. Okay, go ahead. This is just giving everybody an idea of the place that I've been investigating. This is the famous Rio Grande Gorge, which the Rio Grande carves on its way out of the valley down to Taos and then Santa Fe, then all the way down, of course, to El Paso. This was taken by a pilot, and he sent me the shot. You can see just above the horizon, there's a black dot there. He was following an object right there, and he decided to take a picture of it because it didn't correspond to any conventional aerial traffic. So he was a little impressed by that, and then went ahead and sent it to me. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay, here we go again. Now, if you hit the see that this is all my special effects.
Oh darn!
Yeah, on Wheeler's not there. None of these are there. Oh my God,
that's a shame.
Oh man. All right. Well, continue.
Okay.
Till we get a picture.
Yeah, Wheel of Geology. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. This is the world's only disappearing creek, or the world's only river or creek with waves. And you can actually, during the spring runoff, you can surf this creek. It disappears underground in a very interesting, just literally all that water flows down from the mountains and then disappears into a hole in the ground. And the valley itself is filled with trillions of gallons of water. It's the highest, largest high altitude aquifer in North America. And the water is trapped between layers of alternating layers of sand and clay. And it actually creates like a natural battery. And I think that might be, one of the reasons why we have so much activity that is misconstrued as anomalous when it's actually rare natural phenomenon. I'll get into that a little bit later. It's one of the things that you have to do as a UFO investigator is be really aware of the various types of natural phenomena that can fool witnesses. And you need to be able to discount at least 8 out of 10 sightings, be able to figure out what it is. And I think a sizable percentage of sightings in the Southwest are in areas where you have interesting natural phenomena that are, again, misinterpreted. You can go ahead. Now, off to the right of this is the sand dunes, about 8 miles away. This is probably where some of the water from that creek comes up. But at the very top of this wetlands areas is 2 little lakes. One's called Head Lake, and then there's Dollar Lake. According to the Tiwa Pueblo, which is in Taos, that is their place of emergence. The Hopi and the Zuni claim their place of emergence is in the Little Colorado River Gorge, right before it goes into Grand Canyon. And the medicine lineages of the Pueblo Indians, their place of emergence is at Bandelier National Monument just outside of Los Alamos. And this is for the northern Pueblos and the Tiwa and Tewa Indians. This is their place of emergence. This is where they go when the earth is going to cleanse itself. They go underground and they stay there until Creator says it's safe to go above ground because nature is cleansing the planet. The last time it happened, the end of the third world was a great flood. Before that, it was fire. Before that, it was ice, and before that, the end of the first world was fire. We're allegedly at the end of the fourth world, and according to the Hopi, the Earth is going to flip over 4 times, and the sun won't come up for 3 days. And if that happens, lock your doors, close your windows, and no matter who comes to your door, don't open your door. I've been told that by 2 different elders, one from the Maya and one from the Hopi. So they both share that particular warning. So you kind of sit up and take notice, I guess. Anyway, go ahead. Give you guys a quick presentation on the magical Four Corners area. This is, of course, the only place in North America where politically we have 4 states, boundaries that all line up in one spot. And you have Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah. And you can see the yellow X's is where the places of emergence that I mentioned are. And then the red indications are the 4 sacred mountains of the Dene. San Francisco Peaks outside of Flagstaff, the Sacred Mountains of the West. Mount Taylor, just outside of west of Albuquerque, is Sacred Mountain of the South. Blanca, as we saw, is a Sacred Mountain of the East. And then right north of Durango is Hesperus, which is considered the Sacred Mountain of the North. So within these areas, we call it Four Corners. This is probably the most active, larger, generalized region. This is the largest area of activity, or one of the largest in the Western Hemisphere. And it's not by accident that many of your most celebrated UFO events and cases happened within the confines of this particular area.
Sure, like Travis Walton. They were
all
of the Four Corners.
Yeah, you know, Roswell would be all the way down right at the very bottom of the lower right-hand corner. This is a shot taken by a guy at Zapata Falls. He had a telescope with a camera on it. This was in low Earth orbit. I'm not sure what it is. If you'll notice the box, the object is actually morphing, and the arrows indicate the direction of travel. It was traveling diagonally, and the object was changing shape. Continue. This is a single sighting of an object that stayed still and was the upper right, and then it was morphing and undulating in the sky, and he took a quick succession of four shots of it. I color corrected a little bit to bring out some of the details, but I didn't do any just contrast, saturation, and brightness. Wow. And then I'm not sure what else we got. There's a close-up of it. And then there's, that's recent. That was from this past winter.
Wow.
Or two winters ago. And then this is from August. That's photographed through a window screen. That's what the kind of the patterns are. She took a series of shots of this. And then, you know, that's pretty much it. Normally I would go into question mode here.
Thank you, Chris, so much.
You're welcome.
Such a wealth of information. You always are.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for you trying out this technology with me and recording on Zoom.